So now let's learn together. So probably all of you know that tonight is Rosh Chodesh Av, and there's only one yahrzeit mentioned in the entire Chumash, and well in the Chumash. So that's Aaron HaKohen. That's the only yahrzeit, the only day of a person's passing mentioned in the 5 books. Gary, you're right that the 5th of Av is the Ari's yahrzeit, and the Ari, the 5th, is actually connected to Aaron, because Av is the 5th month, and he was nifter the 5th day of the 5th month. And Kabbalistically speaking, in terms of the Sfirot, 5 is the Sfira of Hod, which correlates with Aaron HaKohen. So that means that the Ari was nifter Hod Sheba Hod, which is Aaron. Aaron is Hod. So Aaron leaves Rosh Chodesh Av, and the Ari is on the 5th. So that's a culmination of this Aaron energy, basically. And we can talk about that a little bit more. What is the connection between Av, Aaron HaKohen, and the Ari? Because they do connect in a beautiful way. So let's just start off with this. So everybody knows that the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, which, we're getting into that place right now in a more intense way. The thing that we have to fix is causeless hatred. And everybody knows that Aaron was all about love and making peace. And so it's interesting that the visual that I have is, can you imagine, like, Rosh Chodesh Av is, so to speak, the front door to the month of Av, right? Can you picture that, the front door? Like, it's the 1st of Av. So who's standing at the front door of the month of Av when we have to get rid of this idea of hating each other for no reason? Aaron, the master of love, right? The master of making peace. In other words, as you walk into Av, as you walk through the front door into Av, Aaron HaKohen is standing there, right there, like urging you to make peace and to see each other with a good eye. So seeing each other with a good eye, I think that's, for me, the connection with the Ari. You see, what is the Ari all about on a very simple level? Is that everything is deeper than what it appears. Like, whatever you think it is, it's deeper than that. And as much as that's true about life and life's circumstances and everything like that, and about Hashem, how true is it about each other? There's a quote that I love from the novelist Vladimir Nabokov. And he, was one of the great literary giants of the last century. And he wrote about himself and about his work to critics. He said, "Please don't understand me too quickly," which I love. Please don't understand me too quickly. And I think that's a great catchphrase for, like, all of humanity. The problem with hating each other for no reason is that one problem is that we all are so quick to understand exactly what's going on with the other person. And then we understand exactly what you had in mind, and then we judge you completely and everything like that. And the Ari is standing there saying, you know what, if you want to make peace, understand that everything, especially people, are so much deeper than you think they are. And just, if you want to develop a good eye for each other, you have to have humility. And humility comes with saying that I don't understand everything so quickly. I don't understand you so quickly. And then all of a sudden, when you allow yourself not to understand each other so quickly, you're so much more forgiving. Right? So I think that's something that I remember when I first learned the laws of Lashon Hara, right? Like guarding your tongue and everything like that. I became a much less interesting person. Because it's sort of like in secular society, people just want to rag on each other. And like so many people, it's like that's like the main body of what they're talking about. And if you're not willing to engage in that level of conversation, you just sort of become much less interesting to them. Allowing myself to be less interesting, which is an act of humility, it's like, if breaking the Torah is what it takes for me to be more interesting, I'm very happy to be less interesting. And, this idea of causeless hatred, it's very interesting because if you go up to someone and say, are you hating people for no reason? They'll say to you, no, I've got great reasons for hating people. Like, no one, this is the problem with causeless hatred, is that no one thinks they're guilty of causeless hatred. Everyone thinks they've got excellent reasons. And part of that comes from the fact that I understand you so well. I know exactly what you were up to. I know what you meant by that. I know. Do you know? You don't know. Maybe you know, but there's an excellent chance you don't know. So, it's good to let go of the things that you don't have to be interesting or smart about. And then just try to be smart about the things that you should be smart about. Like understanding Torah, Like you want to be smart? Be smart about Torah. Learn more Torah, right? We don't have to be smart about really uncovering the secret motives of other people or thinking that we know. So I'll tell you something else, and I think that this is something that we should all be aware of and guard ourselves against, because it's a trap that a lot of people fall into, and they fall into this trap thinking that they're being a good person. But it's mamish causeless hatred, right? You say, I'm probably not guilty of causeless hatred. Well, listen to this example and just think about it, okay? How many times has this come up in your life where you're good friends with someone, right? Like very good friends. It may even be your wife, by the way. Maybe your wife, okay? Or a good friend of yours. And they get into a fight with someone else. Not you. You have no problem with that person. But your wife or your good friend gets into a fight with someone else. And now, and they hate that person, or they're angry at that person. And now the ball's in your court to hate that person also as an act of loyalty, as an act of friendship, as an act of being a good spouse to the other person. And now you find yourself having to hate another person for no reason because that person never did anything to you. And look how the Yetzer Hara works. The Yetzer Hara comes to you and tells you you're being a good person by hating that person. What a loyal friend you are. Do you understand? Do you see how insidious this is? Now I'm sure you've all heard this thought. This is a classic thought, but you have to really think about it, okay? But I'm going to tell you just in case you haven't heard it before. The first temple was destroyed because of murder, sexual immorality, and idol worship. Right, thank you. So the big three. And then it was rebuilt 70 years later. Well, you say, well, wait a second. Those are the biggest averas in the entire Torah. A person has to die before doing any of those things. If someone comes up to you and says, bow before that idol or I'll kill you, you have to say, then go ahead and kill me. For all three of those things. And the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, was rebuilt 70 years later. And now what about the second temple? The second temple was destroyed because of causeless hatred. And it's been 2,000 years. 2,000 years. So how do you understand that? 2,000 years later. You know why? Because those other things as horrible as they were, and like I say, a person has to die before committing those averas. Their actions, and so to speak, they're more superficial, they're more outside. But sinas chinam, hatred for no reason, that gets inside your heart, and therefore it's so much harder to purify your heart. It's so much harder to get it out. You see, one of the things that we have to realize is that, the problem is that we all think that we're in competition with each other. And so we think that if you get something, that's money out of my pocket. You got that good thing? I didn't get that good thing. That's called a zero-sum game. But you know something? That's not how God runs the world. First of all, we're all one soul, which means if anything good happens to you, something good happened to me because we're all the same soul. Rav Shlomo Carlebach says the following: a person who can't be happy for another person doesn't even know the definition of joy. If you can't have joy over another person's joy, you don't know the definition of the word joy. You don't know what it is. You know, I know certain people, and it's like, I know that I can be friends with these people, close with these people, where when they hear someone got like a big job or a success, they go, fantastic, great, oh, that's great, I'm so happy. When they react like that, that's the measure of a person. And if you don't react like that, when you hear good news about another person, ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Because there is something wrong with me if I'm reacting that way. You know, if you don't have a Ferrari, it's not because God ran out of Ferraris. Right? Like, that guy got the last one. Right? That one could have been mine. That's not what's going on. That's not what's going on. And so the truth is, there is a competition going on. There really is. But it's not between you and me or you and each other. It's between you and yourself. It's between you and all of the light that's inside of you. Can you get that light out of you? Can you beam that light out into the world? And how do you beam light out into the world? God gives you a test. And if you overcome that test, then you emit light from your soul and you brighten the entire world. That's what tests are. There are all these opportunities to get the light that's inside of you outside of you. And remember, our soul is a piece of God. So do you know what's compacted inside of us? How much light is compacted inside of us? You'll never run out of light. You'll never run out of light. Which is why God, during our lifetime, never runs out of tests for us. You see, the Kotzker Rebbe says the following. He says, God gives you a test. And if you pass that test, you know what happens? You get a bigger test. And if you fail that test, you know what happens? You get a smaller test. And if you pass the smaller test, you know what happens? You get a bigger test. And that's the way it goes till our last breaths. Till our last breaths. So we have to change our attitude about challenge. Right? You know, if you know anything about baseball, it's like the pitcher throws pretty fast, right? God is throwing really fast, but he's not throwing at us. Like it might be close, right? That's an inside pitch, right? And I took off a button, right? But he's not throwing at us. So that's the thing. When you adjust your attitude about tests, you're going to change your attitude about God, and you're going to change your attitude about how you wake up and how you approach the entire day. Because instead of saying, another challenge, another thing wrong, you wake up and you go, okay, God, you pick up your bat, you step into the batter's box, and you go, okay, what do we got today? Right? Because you're ready, because you understand that this is the currency of the world. And why are these things coming at us? Because when we face a challenge, we take that light that's inside of us and we put it out in the world. That's what it is. And then you change the entire world, because then people say, hey, do you know? You know, there are different reasons why challenging things happen to people. So one reason, a person can actually be blameless. They didn't do anything wrong. They haven't even, this isn't coming to fix anything. Why? So then why did God send them that challenge? So there are different categories, there are different answers to this. But I'm just telling you one answer is that because God has confidence that you're going to pass that test and you are going to be an inspiration to the entire world.